Coinsagers, what about you? That is a very Northern Ireland greeting. What about you? Let's get into an Laurel and Hardy review. Legends, welcome back to the channel. This is Coinsage Media, the review show. I am your host, Rodney Stewart. We're going to get into another Laurel and Hardy review here. That's another silent film from 1929 called Angora Love. And in this movie, Stan and Ollie are basically adopted by a runaway goat that has escaped from a pet shop. The owner of which has reported to the police. He believes the goat has been stolen. So the goat meets Stan and Ollie on the side of the street. They've just come out of a confectionery shop, and they're eating donuts and whatnot, and Stanley makes the mistake of feeding the goat. So as they try to leave, the goat follows them, and of course they can't get away from this thing. Basically, and again, there is in this film, when they're running away from the goat, there is the old joke where Oliver steps off the pavement into a puddle, which turns out to be just a massive gaping hole. That also happened in the previous review on this channel, which was Habeas Corpus. If you go back, for me, growing up, seeing reruns of the movies and stuff on TV, you get the sound movies, like the later ones. A lot of the jokes, if you go back to the silent movies, you'll see a lot of stuff that you'll know from the feature-length Laurel and Hardy sound movies. Back in these silent short films, the earlier attempts at the same joke, they reworked a lot of their comedy and the later stuff as well. So you see a couple of examples of that within the short film. Another of which is Stan and Ollie is sitting in the bed. I want to say the film, just going by memory here, could be wrong, Sons of the Desert, I want to say. Now that I've said it out loud, I don't think it's right. It's the one where they end up in the French Foreign Legion. For some reason, the name of the movie is escaping me at the minute, but there is the sketch in there where Oliver is sitting in the bed, Stanley's beside him, and he's complaining about his feet being really sore, and he reaches down thinking he's lifting his own foot up, and he takes the sock off and he's massaging the foot, and he's like, oh, this feels so good, but that's actually Stanley's foot that he's lifted. And Stanley just lets it happen the whole time, and then the punchline to that joke is Stanley taps him on the shoulder and says, scratch my back. And at this point Oliver realises what he's been doing. You see that within this film as well, earlier version of it. Just as well done. But yes, basically in this film they end up having to sneak the goat past the landlord of the hotel that they're staying in, or the boarding house. And the landlord is played by Edgar Kennedy, veteran of Laurel and Hardy movies. Who else is in here? Edgar Kennedy, Harry Bernard, Charlie Hall, and Charlie Young are all in this as well, in bit parts in the background. Basically, the rest of this movie happens within the bedroom of the hotel they're staying in, trying to hide this goat. And Edgar Kennedy, as the landlord, during the night comes up a time or two to complain about the noise they're making, and he's got the reputation of being a complete madman, murderer sort. We don't want to get on the wrong side of this guy, kill the two of us sort of deal. So at one point they have to sneak the goat underneath their bed to try and hide it from him, which works. And as they're trying to get to sleep, they start to think, right, there's an awful smell in this room, what is it? And Oliver says, it's the goat. And so he tells Stanley, right, give this thing a bath, and if it doesn't smell any better than it does now, the two of yous are out. So this is leading up into the final climactic scene in the movie where Stan and Ollie end up trying to, look at this steel basin in the middle of the room. They're carrying water from the sink in the kitchen area, pouring it into this steel bath and trying to bath the goat. There's a lot of other little slapstick moments that happen in there. At one point there's a nail on the floor they keep stepping on, and it actually manages to make a hole in the roof, and when they drop water on the floor it starts leaking through into Edgar Kennedy's room that's directly below theirs. So at one point during the movie where they're trying to bath this goat, they get a knock at the door again. Of course they freak out thinking it's Edgar Kennedy's character again, the landlord, and Oliver gets hold of Stanley, throws the goat out of the way, gets Stanley's head into the basin, starts washing his hair, and the door opens up and it's another guest of the place they're staying in, and he's like, oh, sorry guys, wrong room, so he disappears back out again. So when Edgar Kennedy does finally turn up, they're not expecting him. He just bursts through the door. They're trying to bath this goat inside this thing, and Stanley notices him, and he does the same as what Oliver did earlier on, throws the goat out of the way, gets Oliver's head on and starts washing his hair. And of course Oliver gets up in a bad mood and lifts the whole basin and goes to throw the water over Stanley, and Stanley moves out of the road. Edgar gets it in the face, and this leads into a water fight basically to close out in the movie, which ends up like another guest comes in the middle of it. There's a bucket of water thrown around him. The water is running out of everybody at this stage. Just previous to Kennedy making this last trip to the room, I should say, he called the police and said, get an officer around here, there's going to be a murder. He's going up the stairs to kill the two of them basically. So during the water fight, a policeman turns up and Kennedy is just about to launch a bucket of water, and the guest he's going to chuck it at was standing in the doorway, but he's moved out of the way now because he's seen the policeman coming, so the policeman gets the bucket of water in the face from Kennedy. So the officer arrests Kennedy at the end of the movie and sees the goat in the corner of the room and blames Kennedy for being the one that actually stole the goat at the start of the movie, even though he wasn't. Basically, nobody stole the goat. The goat just escaped on its own, attached itself to Stan and Ollie, ended up in this room. But, excuse me, I'm full of coffee. But at the end of the movie, Edgar Kennedy is taken off under arrest by the policeman. The policeman also takes the goat away, and at the end of the movie, Stan and Ollie are sitting in the room together, and Oliver is like, you know what, I hope I never see another goat as long as I live. And just then, from underneath the bed in the room, 3 little baby goats, kids, I want to say, is the name of them. Let me just check that. What is the name of a baby goat? Baby goat, baby goat. Goat could either be called a kid or a billy. I'm surprised I knew that without actually having to look it up. But there you go, and there you have it. This movie here is actually fantastic. This is another one I hadn't seen before now, and definitely a really, really, really enjoyable, good movie. And again, it's good to see, going back to the silent stuff, seeing some of the earlier attempts at some of the classic comedy that you know from the feature-length sound movies. And you can see them kind of crafting their comedy as they move along to later movies. It is absolutely brilliant. Such a good box set.